Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hot Pole Position. I am your host, Adam Steele. Joining me as always is the inimitable one and only Mr. Liam Wright.
Woo, woot, woot, woot.
Yeah.
I like that.
How are you,
How are
sir?
you?
Well,
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm very, very tired. I've managed to cram a lot in this week. It's been a bank holiday, which I'm sure I may have mentioned this before, but for our US fans, apparently Americans don't really get bank holidays. It's a very British thing.
Yeah, public holidays. I don't.
Public holidays like I think
It's the King Day and such.
Yeah, but instead of that, basically, we're very obviously ruled by the banks rather than being some shady hidden corporations. And the banks just say, we're having a holiday today, so none of you can work. Which means that anybody who works in the service industry actually works more.
Yeah, double time.
Yes. So, between that and so much editing that I've done this week, it's been bananas.
Quite a few videos to do.
Yes, so there's a lot to film, but I've also filmed quite a lot, and there's a lot to edit.
Mm-hmm.
So our video that we were talking about last week about DistroKid, that is now edited, that's ready, that's going live on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
The video that I released talking about a PC build went out this Monday, which was right down to the wire, but yeah. Building a PC for less than $1,000 for absolute up-to-date decent hardware. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's gone out, and that had both an AMD and an Intel build in there, and that was quite educational doing that as to the prices of things.
Well, for you, even you mean?
Yeah, because the market's constantly fluctuating. They're constantly going up and down as new products come in. The old, slightly older products, the prices drop like a stone. And it was interesting more than anything to me how Intel don't drop their prices, traditionally speaking. They just kind of don't. Mm-hmm. But AMD always have.
Yeah.
AMD are quite happy to, when they launch something, and say, hey, this is $400. And a year down the line, they go, this is old now. Have it for $200. Just take it. Mm. And there was a video by Gamers Nexus, who are very well respected in the industry. They've got now 400,000 subscribers. Their whole thing is they do very technical analysis of the industry. And they broke down sales figures from companies for years and years. I think it was like a decade of AMD versus Intel processor sales. And in the consumer market. Mm-hmm, and yeah. AMD are now outstripping Intel 2-1.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's completely flipped. It completely gone. It used to be...
Is that globally, or...?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was 90% Intel in the consumer market, and it's just gone the other way, because AMD make things that are good and affordable. I mean, there's not a lot to argue with that. The Ryzen stuff has done exceptionally well. Yeah. The generations before that, not so much, but... Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was interesting. And also, I've now filmed a video entirely about mastering using Ozone.
Yes, we're talking about that.
Yes, and I'm 70-80% of the way through editing that, so that's going to be out fairly sharpish.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a lot to
content.
do.
Lots of varied content as well.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm trying to refocus back on the tutorial thing for a while now. And the PC building avenue, they're my two things for the next little while.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now that we've done some interesting stuff like the DistroKid video, that's the kind of stuff that's really interesting but won't draw people to the channel who've never heard of us before.
Yeah.
So yeah, for a little while I want to focus on videos that appeal to as many people as possible.
Yeah, because as I pointed out to you, lots of people know a lot less than you do. So I think that's the key thing. That is your knowledge, and I think we've said before that one of the things with Adam is that he wants to teach and show people the things, but because he's so passionate about quite high-end stuff, you kind of almost thinking that some of the more basic things, like say a basics to mastering and such, that people wouldn't necessarily come to you for that. But that's exactly what a lot of our viewers are looking for, is that base level stuff and understanding it at that level, and from someone that understands it at a much higher level as well. Because you get that sort of the experience. We talked about it several times already on the show, but the experience of the fact that we started the studio from scratch with nothing and we've built it up from bits and pieces to something that's really quite special. So Yeah, I think these videos should be really good. I'm excited.
Yes, the mastering one's almost an hour long, but it's worth it because there's an hour's worth of stuff to talk about.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it was an hour and 10 before the edit, so I've not really chopped out a lot of superfluous stuff.
Wow.
It's all good content. I think I just spent 20 minutes talking about use references, it's important, and it is kind of the important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, that's what I've been up to this week. Oh my word. So, let's kick off the new... Well, before we talk about news, actually, while we were talking about the sub-£1,000 computer builds that we've been talking about, they were partly expensive because that included almost £100 for a copy of Windows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all brand new stuff. And so one of our regular viewers, David, put a comment on the video saying, here's a thing that I've done. Maybe try this. And I might actually try this if you think this is a good idea. Is that I'm going to switch to Capture. David had bought one of these on eBay, which is a Lenovo T420. Now, I don't know if you know Lenovo are owned by IBM, so they're they're the biggest. And the T420 apparently was one of the most popular business laptop models pretty much ever made. They made squillions of them, and now they're all slightly
some of the Dell inspirations. There was a period.
That's right. So the T420 specifically was really overpowered compared to everything else.
Right.
For its price point anyway, and now because they were all business. All the leases are up and they've all been handed back and they're all being sold on eBay for practically nothing.
Ah, okay.
So what he was saying was you can get one of these, which it's a Core i5 Sandy Bridge. And the one that I found just as a good example on eBay, because there's tons of them. I can show you the big... Yeah, there's loads and loads and loads of these things, which means if I make a video about this and it's successful, there's enough to go around.
Yeah.
Rather than making one video and suddenly the price shoots up because of scarcity. And so the one I found was £105, and apparently because this is a worldwide thing, it's exactly the same in the US, that the Lenovo T420, they're going for about $100, $120.
Right.
And so this is 4GB of RAM, and it's got a Windows 7 Pro license with it, a 320GB hard drive, which I'll talk about in a second, £105 free delivery. And so David is doing all his music production with that and quite a basic interface.
Okay.
And because...
What generation Sandy Bridge? Just remind me what number.
It's second generation, so it's 2000 model, so it's a 20-something
right,
something.
Okay.
So it's not particularly new, but it's not that different to the brand new models of processors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the newer ones are more powerful, sure, but not by the biggest margin. I mean, if you just don't have a machine, you don't have an interface, you don't have anything, and you want to start getting into music production, this is probably perfect. Because you're not paying for a graphics card, you're not paying for anything you don't need. I've paid for licenses for Windows alone that cost this much.
Yeah.
Why not just get Windows with a free laptop?
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is
You'd
actually
want to replace the hard drive.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. So that's the big slowdown on old laptops is spinning hard drives. But on Amazon now, a proper SanDisk SanDisk solid state drive, 240 gig, £30.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that means that for £135, which is still relatively cheap, you would have a lightning fast system.
Would that fit in the MacBook?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get one of them.
Yeah. This is off topic, but we've got an old 2011 MacBook that kind of died.
Yeah.
And,
well, semi on topic. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
We talk about bringing that back
Go
to
for
life for potential recording as well. It's unfortunately it's downstairs. It was next to me, but because it's interesting what's happened with that. So that was an old MacBook that had water damage to it, and initially just wouldn't even turn on. And then after about 6 months to a year, it finally turned on, and the screen didn't work. And we noticed that by plugging it into an external monitor, we could get it working again. So then we used it with the external monitor for a while, and then it turns out that the battery must have been damaged as well, because the battery swelled up and luckily didn't explode, but potentially could have exploded, so we had to take the battery out of it. So I've rang around a few companies recently, and then the interesting thing is some of them have just said, yeah, we can fix it. It'll be like 300-400 quid or something. Some of them said, no, you can't fix it because we're, say, an Apple official dealer will just tell you it can't be fixed.
Right.
But that's just because they can't get the parts, because they have to use Apple parts, which don't exist anymore.
Right.
So it's interesting. If you've got a Mac that goes wrong, going through this process is quite interesting. Don't go, if it's older than a few years old, don't go to an official reseller, because they'll just tell you need to get a new one when you don't. If you call up a local repair company or a Mac specialist, they will give you a price, but most likely, if it's something like this, if it's anything to do with the logic board, they won't actually fix it themselves. If you've actually got a Mac problem that needs to be fixed, you want to Google micro soldering companies, because it's the micro soldering companies that are the ones that will actually repair the logic boards for you and save you an absolute butt ton of money. So there's a company in Cambridge that I'm going to be sending it to that apparently reckons he can fix it for 100 quid.
Right. Which I completely believe. I've been following a channel, a guy called Lewis Rossman in New York. I mean, New York's far too far to send a laptop for us. But the principle, and this guy makes hundreds of videos about this, is that different faults come up with different MacBooks. And he just says, well, he just starts getting his measuring tools out and going, well, there's voltage here, but not here. Oh, so it's this component that's dead. And then he just, flows the solder off, puts a replacement on of a tiny little thing.
I think that was the video that I saw that made me realize what the issue was, because he was doing some macro soldering literally with a microscope.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, there's no way that I'm even going to attempt to try that. And then when I spoke to there was just one company in Manchester that were really honest, because instead of looking for a Mac repairer, I just searched for computer repairing, and he just quite openly was like, we just send it somewhere else. So you need a macro soldering company. We wouldn't touch that. It's too specialized. So you need a specialized person for it. But interestingly, you don't want to look for Mac repair companies, because most of them will just send it to another company.
Yeah.
So it's micro soldering, which I thought was quite interesting, because it's not something that I'd realized before, personally.
Yeah. So
we might have that back. So we might be able to run. I mean, the other thing is you can get like the old MacBooks like that again that are like damaged for 50-60 quid on eBay. So maybe we do a shoot off. Maybe we do the 2011 Mac versus the Lenovo, because it'd be similar price. In all honesty, if you were to, in terms of fixing an old Mac and see how they run back in the 2011 days, because that needs a new hard drive as well, really. But it is a bit slow.
But a new Mac, a new SSD that's 240 gigs, not amazing, but it's something. 30 quid. That's so cheap compared to what it used to be. Or if you're prepared to use a Kingston one, they're $24.99. It depends who you're looking at. They're all in a war with each other now to make the cheapest Western Digital £27. So the prices are going through the floor, and that's for let's look for 500 gig SSDs, because there can't be that much overhead on the price. So 500. So some brand I've never heard of, Yukon, 40 quid for a 500 gig drive. SanDisk, 56 quid for a 500 gig drive. So prices are absolutely through the floor. Yeah, you're currently looking at £55 for a 500 gig drive, solid state. That's ridiculous. And I think replacement battery for that MacBook, because you said that exploded. They're not expensive anymore, are they?
No, they're 45 quid if you buy them online, or 95 quid if you go to a repair shop to buy one.
So 45 quid. Yeah. I, for one, would be quite comfortable with installing a battery. You literally just put the ribbon in and close the ribbon connector.
Yeah, there's quite a few spares and repairs for the 2011. There's loads of them.
Well, it was a very, very popular series, and because the back was just held on with screws and you could just open it up, a lot of people were upgrading them. So the parts are still available, because it's not like you have to unweld a case or anything like that. Yeah. Ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, interesting comment from Mac in the chat. Says, he's got a laptop at his rehearsal space that he records drums with, which is a weird Pentium thing, probably one of the cheaper models, and then mixes it at home on a better machine.
Yeah.
So that's also an option. You could use it as like a portable recording rig.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm planning to do with this is I'm just going to run this through TeamViewer. So I'm just getting the Mac back up so that I can work through TeamViewer wherever I am with my system back at home. That's kind of the way I tend to work when I go into Manchester to work.
I was going to say the other option for that is take a screen and a Raspberry Pi. I've got Raspberry Pi 3 right there. That's if that runs TeamViewer, and I'm sure it would if you put a wine on it or something like that.
Yeah, I've got a Pi somewhere as well. I
think yours is maybe a little too old to do that, but yours, Pi 1. The Pi 1 existed to prove a point, really, whereas the Pi 3 can actually do stuff in a time where you're not just going to get a coffee every time you click a button.
That's so amazing. Have you seen any of the magic mirrors that people are making out of them on Reddit all the time now?
Oh, yeah.
They're really cool. Have like a mirror in your bathroom that is basically a laptop. It's Alexa mirror. Really cool.
Ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely bananas. But yeah, so that's the thing. So what we'll probably do, is we'll buy one of these then, one of these Lenovo's, see what it's like, put Reaper and a couple of other plugins on it. Basically, keep the. How should I frame this video? Should it be recording computer under £100 or whatever the price is that we find, or entire production rig, including interface, including this for under £300 or?
I think just focusing on the fact that you can get decent like computer system, because some people may already have sort of basic interfaces and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd go for that.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the Audion ID4 here, which is about £100 for one of them, and that's an amazing little interface. Combined with this, which already has its Windows license and an SSD, and Reaper for $60, you don't need that much more. You're kind of done.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and anything else from there is just icing on the cake, depending on when your demands for what you're doing go up. When you start to find that your computer's struggling, that's when you should be starting to think, okay, so do I start freezing tracks, or do I start looking to invest in something bigger? Yeah. I think the first album I ever mixed, I did on a really rubbish old quad-core AMD Phenom, with plugins left, right, and centre in Cubase, and I managed it because it was what I had at the time, and I had no money to go out and buy the latest and greatest. And it's only as time went on that, especially as I started getting paying clients and doing it for a living and finding out that people don't like waiting for you to freeze down tracks and that kind of thing, that then you start to go, well, if I save this much money per client, it then becomes a legitimate business expense. Either that, or you've got money to throw at it because it's your hobby, and that's also cool, but you know, it's worth having that frame of mind, I think.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a £1,000 system to make a great track. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at some news, shall we?
The
news. Here's one that dropped into my email earlier. This is a bit of an off-topic. Sonarworks, our friends at Sonarworks, who make the software that makes everything sound good. They've got a bit of a double-edged sword this week, where they've got a new executive, Tarif Syed. These guys are a Latvian company. This guy is definitely not Latvian. But he has formerly worked for Dolby on their virtual reality sound and Atmos and that kind of thing, and also worked as Nokia's head of virtual reality. Are Nokia still a thing?
Yeah.
They still exist? Yeah.
I think, as far as I'm aware, they still actually have a lot bigger market share than you'd imagine.
Right. Is that lower end stuff that they've got a lot of? Yeah. Because they were owned by Microsoft for a long time, and I remember them getting dropped like a hot rock.
It was the 9th top brand in 2018.
Wow. That's not nothing. Yeah, so this guy, so that's him with the team from Sonarworks, he's apparently going to stretch their reach across the US and Asia, which is going to be massive for a company from Latvia that wouldn't otherwise have someone who's got that experience, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's changing their marketing strategy and all that kind of stuff. And the piece of news that I got was that Sonarworks are stopping doing their referral code stuff pretty much as of next week, which is quite rough. I mean, it means that we're not going to get anything more from referral links from these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's one reason I wanted to mention it on stream, is that next week I'm going to start taking out the referral links from previous videos, but that's not because we've fallen out with Sonarworks. We still like them. It's that the actual referral scheme is no longer going to exist.
Mm-hmm.
So having dead links, you don't really want. So, yeah, before anyone asks the questions, well, why are you taking all these links out? Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore as of next week. So, yeah. Hopefully they'll be replacing it with something else.
Strategy, business development.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully they'll be putting something in place, because their back end uses a company called Refersion, who I've seen a couple of companies use them who make referral links, but I'm guessing that they take a percentage of that referral link. Mm-hmm. So it could be one of the first things that he's looked at and gone, we can either do this better or it's not cost effective for us.
Yeah.
I mean,
if he was there during the last year, there was saying that they were in the top 10 of phone sales for Nokia. It was 126% year-on-year growth. So if he was partly responsible for that at all, no wonder he's been headhunted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, this guy must be a major win for Sonarworks then, because like I said, they're only a small company. Mm-hmm. But what they can do, I think, has massive scope, and it's been massively underused right now. The idea behind Sonarworks, where you can say, this is the brand of headphones I have, make them sound good, click. Mm-hmm. If you could have that on Android, iOS, they also do a software called HeadFi, which is pretty much just Sonarworks, but for hi-fi guys instead of people like us.
Yep.
But if they can market that right, if they can have, that's probably what he's there for, the TrueFi. Yeah, that's what it's called. Mm-hmm. If he can set them up properly with proper advertising and everything across the world, as getting this in phone brands and that kind of thing, at even, I don't know, 10 cents for a license, think how many millions of phones are out there. Just to throw a ballpark figure out there, rather than charging people €50 for a license, if they can get this in quantity, their company's going to become massive overnight.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, all the more power to them, because I can tell you firsthand that the software works. Mm-hmm. As someone whose job it is to listen closely to stuff, it makes my life good, and it works. So if I'm noticing a difference, a positive difference, I reckon that, yeah, it's going to change a lot of things. Because, I mean, what if you've got headphones that are half decent, but they don't sound amazing, but you don't want to then go out and buy new headphones? If you've got an app on your phone that says, well, I know your headphones aren't great, but let's fix that, click.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even a button that says your headphones are amazing, let's make them even better, click. That's...
Or what about a company that say you can't afford great headphones? How about you rent them off me and they will be customized to you? How would you compare that, which obviously is the Neurophones that we were talking about last week?
Yeah.
We didn't mention the fact that they have their the hiring scheme. How would you compare Sonarworks to? They've obviously not tried the Neurophone headphones, so it's hard. But in terms of concepts,
I think as a concept, the Sonarworks on mobile devices has far more potential to be successful, because software is infinitely replicable for a start, which means that apart from server costs, there's very little overhead. It's easy to get because you click a button and it's there, whereas the Neurophone one, you've got to wait for them to arrive. Renting headphones really rubs me the wrong way mentally, because renting consumables, renting things that you're going to have out on the street with you, and
it's not I won't call headphones consumable.
Well, in the same way that a phone is a consumable in the long term,
right?
In the way that I'm thinking about it, you don't rent phones anymore. if you think about it, no one that I know rents a phone. We all get them on a contract, which is purchase to own, like hire purchase. So at the end, you have paid for it. It's yours.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, maybe if Neurophone had that plan in mind, that would sit better with me, because what happens if you're renting them and then you break them? Did you hire the extra insurance? Yep. And if you did, then Neurophone are then making a loss, that kind of thing. I don't know.
Interesting though.
But yeah, with something like the Sonarworks stuff, if you've already got whatever brand of headphones you like, which also means you can continue to be, repping for your favourite brand if your set of people that you're with prefer Beats or whatever. I mean, I'm not an image-based kind of person like that, but some people are. Mm-hmm. But you want those headphones, but the sound isn't amazing. But you can click a button and suddenly it is. Mm. Ta-da! Yeah.
Can't argue with that, really.
Yeah. So, let's move on. Let's look at this one next. Mercurial, who are a plugin company that make some very good plugins indeed. Lovely people, apparently. They have made a free plugin that's the Boss Metal Zone. Ah. They've called it the Metal Area. I'm guessing because of legal issues. But I just thought that was hilarious that I've seen and heard some really good reviews of Mercurial stuff. Their amps, the Spark, which I think is their Mesa Triaxis clone, really sounds quite realistic. So if you were to stick this pedal in front of your virtual amp, suddenly you can have that horrible 90s tone at the click of a button. And you can load up your nice Line 6 Spider amp model and stick this in front of it. Get the
pure 90s
best fuzz. Tone. Yeah, the best tone. Yes, so check that out from Mercurial's website.
That's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, good on them for making it free as well. I think they've done that for the notoriety. I mean, if it gets used, why not?
Yeah.
I'll be checking it out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll try and make a short video about that and not spend way too much time on production, but just be like, hey, free Metal Zone. Yeah. So, next... Oh, yes, so that was the news article to go with that. Arturia, who make keyboard plugins, but they also make hardware now, have just released the V Collection 7, which is... It's a set of plugins. It's €400 right now, so it's on offer. It's got an absolute ton of virtual keyboards in, which are mostly based on classic keyboards. Like the Mellotron is one of the new ones, which is like Strawberry Fields Forever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Yamaha CS80's in there, which we talked about last week. The synth that weighs as much as a car. Hammond organs, all sorts of stuff. Basically, if you can think of a classic synthesizer of some kind, it's in here, and they're all really, really good versions of those amps. Wow. And yeah, for that money, that's absolutely crazy. There's also like proper modern synths in there, like the Analogue Labs and Synthepedia. I'll just play one of their little collections. So all those kind of sounds, they come from the Arturia stuff. So you get super modern as well as proper vintage. The B3 is one of my favourites, the Hammond B3 organ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it actually sounds like a real one to me. And so, yeah.
Is that coming through for the people? Because I couldn't hear it on the stream. But I don't know
right, okay. Well, it's coming through my headphones, so it will be coming through. Let me just hit play. Just say something.
Hello. I am Liam. I make noise. Words.
Ah, there we go.
Just because I clicked on the stream and I couldn't hear it, but I did have it fairly low, so... Oh no, yeah, it's definitely coming through. Yeah. Well, it is now at least, anyway.
Yeah, and so the Synthepedia, like I was saying, is... Yeah, so there's a bit of a stylistic range that this thing can cover.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, the newest bundle, the version 7 that just came out, has got all this and more, and I thought it was awesome.
Do they have Moogs and stuff?
Oh, lots
Like,
of Moogs. Yeah, so they've had the Moog stuff in there forever.
So this is just the new stuff that was on that list, isn't
That's
it?
just the Moog. That's the new stuff. So they've got the mini Moog in there, which is one of the classics. The modular Moog, which is the one that's the size of a wall, that's got all the twisty knobs and stuff. So there's those in there. I think there's a Poly Moog as well somewhere.
This looks like it's going to be one of those plugins we were talking about, though, that would require you to at least have half decent graphics card by the looks of it.
A lot of it's very pretty.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of the plugins interfaces actually move, though.
Yeah, just looking at that, they're beautiful to use. It looks quite pretty.
It does. What makes plugins quite tough on a graphics card isn't how pretty they are, though. It's how much stuff moves on screen, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you can basically do with a lot of this stuff is have an artist make a really, really nice JPEG and just use that as the background, and then just slap a few knobs on it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as the knobs have got a bit of a shadow on them, and that doesn't take a great deal of processor power.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on how each company's decided to do it. If I remember rightly, I used to use the Arturia Mini Moog and Modular Moog 10 years ago. So back when they were on, I think, version 2, version 3, and they sounded great then. And this was on really old hardware, and they didn't struggle at all. So, apparently, by the look of this, they look better than they used to. But I would imagine they've made sure that they're not going to absolutely kill your graphics card. Yeah, so there's Moog stuff in there. There's an ARP 2600, which is another one of the classics. Oh, Behind Matrix 12 is one of my favourites. That's like Jump by Van Halen.
All right, yeah.
That synth. There's the Dave Smith Prophet, which the Prophet is pretty much most of the mid-80s, and the Yamaha DX7, which is there, is the rest of the 80s. A Fairlight CMI is basically all the Stevie Wonder stuff, like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the mad synthy Stevie Wonder stuff's a CMI. Yeah, so literally most of synth ever that you can think of is in this collection. It's bananas.
Very cool.
So yeah,
that's a lot of stuff for that amount of money.
Absolutely. So if I can, I'm going to try and get hold of the guys at Arturia and be like, hello, Mr. Arturia guy, I want to do demo.
Mm-hmm.
And see what happens.
Yeah, I think with the amount of potential you've got in there, I think it would be really good to see how it's working.
Yeah, there's so much to go at there. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of even as a producer, rather than, because I'm not the world's best keyboard player by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not thinking of this as a keyboard guy, this is what I need. I mean, if you're a keyboard guy and you like classic sounds, you should definitely get this. But the bigger audience for me is producers who just need the sounds, and then get someone in to play it, or just get someone to send you a MIDI file that they've played, and then have you have the choice of doing all the sonic cleverness. There's so many possibilities. I mean, most of what I use in the studio at the moment is the Native Instruments stuff. I use Contact for a lot of stuff. Yeah. And the sounds are starting to sound a little bit aged on a lot of that. And so a lot of people in the studio will go, oh, have you got this kind of sound? Oh, have you got that kind of sound? And even though they're quite impressed when I can just pull that out of a hat and just go, yeah, of course I've got one of these, quite often they're not quite, they don't feel quite right. And I kind of have to bury them in the mix a little bit. Whereas
I mean, surely that's always going to be the case with emulation, though. Like, it's never going to be as good. I mean, you don't think that one of these is going to be as good as an actual real Yamaha?
A lot of it is getting very, very close now, especially with the Arturia stuff. It's, if you place one right up against the next, you might be able to tell with this stuff, but you're getting so close that a lot of the time I don't think people are going to notice.
Okay.
One of my favourite keyboard players is a guy called Jordan Rudess, plays in Dream Theater. And before he did, he worked for Korg, literally programming their keyboards. He's a synth guy. And he uses a lot of Arturia stuff, Native Instruments stuff. He doesn't tend to use, quote-unquote, real instruments anymore.
Right.
Because there's no need. I mean, this is a guy who programs these sounds for a living, so his depth of knowledge scares me.
And reference.
So, yeah, if he goes, well, this sound could sound more like this if I tweaked this knob, but he's got 7,000 behind-the-scenes knobs to tweak because he's that kind of guy. It's the kind of level that, yeah, it terrifies me what this guy knows. Beyond his actual playing ability, which is world-class, he can talk about synths until my brain falls out my ear. Yeah, and he's quite happy with all this stuff, so if it's good enough for someone like that, it's got to that level now. I mean, if the DX7, I've actually got a real Yamaha DX7 in the studio, so I might be able to do a shootout between the virtual one and the real one and see how close they are.
Yeah.
So if they're close enough, I mean, hell, we could sell the DX7.
Sure.
Yeah. Or at the very least, return it to its owner. Just thinking about it. No, I don't own that one. That's permanently on loan from the musical instrument collection of the Steel Senior Museum.
Right.
Yes. So, looks awesome, but
let's not sell it now.
Yes. Yeah. At least not without permission.
No.
Anyway, so the last news article for the day is Pioneer, well known for their DJ decks and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently they're selling their DJ division.
Oh.
Very ominous.
What else do they do?
Pioneer, they make CD players,
Hi-Fis.
they make hi-fis, they make... Yeah. Yeah, so apparently they're looking to sell it for between $500 and $600 million. So that's a lot of hundreds of millions. But it would mean Pioneer Corporation have exited the DJ market entirely. And so they've got mixers, actual vinyl turntables, DJ equipment. But I reckon that's the right move. I think that DJ equipment as a thing is definitely not doing well.
No, but you're still gonna. I don't know. People are still gonna need interfaces. Like, as much as everything is digital, I mean, most it's CD decks, obviously, what most people would use rather than unless they actually are playing vinyls. With those CD, the CD decks that you're just using as MIDI controllers, essentially, aren't you? You're just using it through your PC.
Yeah, but no one uses them now because there are newer, cheaper ones where it doesn't have a CD player in at all.
Yeah, I mean, when I said CD deck, I was just thinking of the sort of controller part of it rather than the actual CDs. But yeah.
But therein lies the issue that Pioneer, that's not what they really do. They actually do the CD decks and they actually do the vinyl decks. I mean, the actual DJ mixer in the middle is probably never going away. But then if that's all that's left in that industry, maybe they
need something to physically mix with, though, like as in like skipping back and scratching essentially.
Yeah, but that's where the control surface side comes in.
Yeah.
And if it becomes more and more of a niche market, there are other companies that do it well. There are other companies who make similar hardware to that already, like Serato Scratch is a software that uses all sorts of stuff. Like you can use Technics vinyl decks now with Serato Scratch or Tractor with a vinyl that's just got digital timecode on it.
Yeah.
So you literally just load up the song in Tractor or whatever it is on the laptop that you've got connected. You can actually do all your beat matching and scratching and that kind of stuff with real vinyl, but it's just sending essentially MIDI messages out to the laptop. Yeah, so at that point, you don't even need a proper DJ mixer. You just need a control surface for the mixer, and you just need an interface that's got stereo out for the front of house and stereo out for your headphones. And you could be Avicii, you could be David Guetta, you could be anyone at that level. You don't need physical CDs or vinyls anymore.
No.
And you can still call it art because it can still take artistic effort to do with your actual hands. Mm-hmm. But you're not using CDs and vinyl and physical media anymore.
No.
Which means that...
A lot of the DJs that I know are just essentially Spotify, in all honesty.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the general stuff, and then for their sort of music collection, they'll have the sort of the iTunes playlist, and they'll play it all off of there, rather than actually having any sort of physical stuff.
Yeah. At one point, I used to live with a Psytrance DJ, and he actually made his own Psytrance music as well, but he would make DJ sets, and he was using controllers to power, I think it was Tractor, but you could do some incredible sets. Like, you could beat and key match everything. You could do like full filters and blend them in and make these 2-hour-long DJ sets that were flawless. Not a single CD or vinyl in sight.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who it was kind of cutting edge then, because that was nearly 10 years ago now, but at the time, I mean, that was cutting edge. Now it's normal. So, you know, the actual physical parts that Pioneer put into their DJ stuff, like all the analog components, the CD components, if there's no demand for them, which is what they specialise in, they're probably having to put loads of money into the R&D for these devices, and they're not seeing any benefit. Where, like, a lot of other companies that do stuff like this, I mean, I wouldn't mind betting that Pioneer had to make really good CD decks for the inside of these, and then could take that technology back to the hi-fi environment from the R&D that they put in, and make a load of money off it, and then basically see the return. Because businesses don't want a one-to-one return on their R&D. They want to make it back tenfold.
Yeah, definitely.
So you make a technology, and then you propagate it across your entire product range, and then everyone says, "Oh, Pioneer CD players are really good. They never skip or whatever." I mean, for 15 years or more, my dad had a Pioneer CD tray. It actually loaded upside down with the CDs, and it was amazing. It was one of the best CD decks we've ever had. I don't think it skipped in 15 years. You could put a disc in that was almost on the edge of death, and it'd just read it and just be like, okay. Which is where the reputation came from. But that technology's dead now.
Yeah.
When I spec out PC builds, I don't even put a CD drive in them now.
No. I haven't had a CD drive in a computer for, I don't know, 7 years, probably.
And you've not missed it?
No.
So I keep an external DVD writer in the studio now, just because some people still want a CD to take home, but even then that's rare. It's few and far between.
It used to be every session, and that was only a few years ago as well, though. Wow.
It wasn't uncommon a few years ago for someone to say, "Oh, can you do me 20 copies?"
Yeah.
Which is why at one point my studio computer had 4 DVD writers in that I could run in parallel.
Yeah.
Because it was the only way to get through everything in reasonable amount of time. And very recently I ripped the last 2 of those out. Yeah.
Old technology is old.
Absolutely. People will be asking me to make them vinyls next.
Saw a video yesterday of 2 teenagers being asked how to dial a phone number on Reddit using a rotary phone.
Oh, God.
they couldn't do it. They didn't understand how it would work. It was that alien to them. Like, it's just bizarre, some of the things that you think of as, like, so CDs. It won't be too long before people don't know how to. I haven't even seen a CD before. Everything's just gonna be solid state.
I know kids who are teenagers who you can have a full adult conversation with, who you show them a cassette, a tape, and they're like, "What's that?" It's like, this is a tape. This is what we used to use before MP3s were good.
I've still got my old 8-track player upstairs.
Yeah. Chris's son, Reese, Chris was telling me this like a couple of weeks ago, that they had a copy of Microsoft Word. the little blue thing in the corner, the save icon. Chris pulled out a floppy disk, and Reese said, "Why have you got the save icon?"
Yeah.
Not the other way
I've
round. Yeah. Why have you got the save icon?
It's fascinating.
Yeah. It's like, the save icon is supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be like, this is what you're saving stuff on. But that was back in the 90s. Ugh. What makes me really dizzy is I think the internet, as we know it, didn't exist before about 1996.
Yeah, 96.
We're only about 20...
95. Yeah, 95. 96 was when the first big websites appeared. I think MTV was one of the first in 96.
Yeah. 96 was when Windows 95 Plus with Internet Explorer was released. Because Windows 95 didn't come with Internet Explorer by default.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And then we had the golden age of Windows 98.
Oh, yes. All hail Windows 98.
Second edition.
Blue screens every day. But yeah, 23 years later, it's as if the internet's just always been here.
Well, to a lot of the people on the planet it has.
Yeah, that's what's weird to me. But there's people not that much younger than us to whom the internet has just always been a thing. And yeah, they've never had to use the phone line to dial in to check their emails.
No, so what's interesting is that these kids, they didn't understand what a dial tone was.
Yeah.
They'd never heard a dial tone before.
They'd never heard a dial tone.
No. Because obviously mobile phones don't have them. Even if you have a house phone, quite a lot of people now have digital ones where you'll press the number in first, then press call. And by the time they get the phone to their head, or don't have a house phone at all.
Well, that's something that's becoming more common. My parents are in their 50s, and they haven't had a landline for years. They don't need it. They just disconnected it. They just unplugged it from the wall and they used the copper phone line for the internet, and that's it. Because they've both got mobiles they've always got with them.
Same with us. We don't have a line either.
No, but I think
one in the office, but
I think for people who are 30 and below, that's quite common, because you're like, why would I be tied to a room waiting for a phone to ring when I've always got one with me?
And my mum's the opposite. She's never off the house phone. She literally just speaks to her sister all night on the house phone.
Well, with modern phone plans, I'm sure that costs about 4p.
See, there's like Mr. P in chat. Like, there's people that will have no idea what he means when he says, "I went to 14.4k to 28.8k to then 56k." There'll be kids like, "What the hell is that? Is that about the money you earn, or like?" It's talking about people haven't heard a dial tone. People won't understand the beauty that is the internet connecting noise. Like, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try and pull that up now. Because there's at least one TV
AOL.
show. Yeah. There's at least one show, and I can't remember what it is, where at the end of it, like the production company, their music is this.
Or being shouted at by your mum because you're on the internet and she needs to call someone.
Yeah, needs to call someone.
But I'm downloading an album off Napster. It's only going to take another half an hour for one song.
Yeah. So this was the noise you heard every time.
Yeah.
Every time you wanted to get onto the internet, that was the noise.
I remember Seb had ISDN.
Oh yeah, my dad had ISDN. It was amazing.
Just so jealous. He could literally download an album in an evening. It used to take me several days. He'd come in the next day from school. I've just downloaded this off Napster.
Yeah, if I was feeling particularly fly, my dad had dual ISDN at one point, so you could actually hook two lines up to the same computer, and it would double the speed. It was 128k.
Be saying his 50 meg line still blows his mind when he thinks about it. We've got 300 down here, and it literally, I have no comprehension of it. Every day, if I've downloaded something that was 15 gig of the day, it took 10 minutes. It's just, what the hell is the internet now?
Yeah, it's just the world intravenously injected into the veins.
Yeah,
it's terrifying. it's caught up to us now as well. A few years ago, where people's Wi-Fi connections are slower than the internet line. So yeah, generally speaking, now I find that when people are moaning about their internet speed, I just say, "Well, get closer to the router," and like, "Oh yeah, that fixed it." Yeah, yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we're about to get 5G as well, which is going to change it all again.
So I hear. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people looking to, I don't know, in the States, they're looking to privatize it, from what I heard. Not privatize it, publicize it, so the government basically want control of it. It's the same in China. It's so powerful that having it in the hands of private companies could be quite difficult, because you can do so much for it. Because it's the latency. It's one of the biggest things with it now. So it'll be massive for audio production, I think, as well. You literally would be able to do something out literally in the field, and be able to deal with. So like we had when we've done sort of ADR with companies across the world.
Yeah.
With 5G, like you definitely won't need ISDN, and you'll be able to be wherever and plug in to a 5G line and have the latency that, in terms of just like someone not recording directly with them necessarily, but in terms of the feedback loop of being able to hear it and talk in real time. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating. Right, let's move on to viewers' questions. Da, 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 da. That's the time now for viewers' questions, I have decided.
Andrea P. Hello, guys. I'm using Ableton, and I've been using Fruity Loop Studio. I'm a producer, and I do much more MIDI job than recording, mixing, and mastering. Do you honestly think the Reaper is worth the swap? Thanks.
Good question. Maybe not for you. Although, here's the thing. I don't think that's the right question. When he's asking, is Reaper worth the swap? You don't have to swap.
Use both.
Use them all. Everything is context dependent. If I was going to start making EDM, I might do it in Reaper because I'm so innately comfortable with Reaper. But if I wanted to be productive fast, I would go back and I'd get back up to speed with Ableton. I used Ableton in version 7 and 8 for a while. When the guy I was living with who was making psytrance, he was swearing by it, and he was so productive with it. He could make a track in a couple of hours that was deep, very well produced, great. But what I would do with him is I would say, right, okay, when he'd done the song, this sounds great, but I think you could change this bit in the mix, this bit of the mix.
Yeah, and export the stems and put it into Reaper. Exactly,
because it was proving quite difficult to get the fine-tuning going in Ableton and that kind of thing. The automation's a lot better than it used to be, but it depends what you're doing. I would almost always do mastering in Reaper because mastering is generally supposed to be on a stereo track.
Can you run Fruity Loops through Reaper? Because I'm sure I remember back in the day running Fruity Loops through Cubase.
Yeah, if you're using it through Rewire, yeah, you probably can. I don't know if I would, but you can. Rewire is generally if you're using, like, I would use that if I was using Fruity Loops or FL Studio, as it's now called, because it's all posh and grown up, apparently. I would use it like a glorified synth or set of synths.
Yeah. That's what I used to do.
Yeah, and then run it that way. That's how I used to use Reason as well, but these days I don't tend to think about it that way. So I would just do the arrangement in something like FL Studio because it's quite good for loop arrangements as well. If you're working in straight 4/4 dance music, dum dum dum, and you're not doing any really awkward arrangement changes or time signature changes or anything, something like Ableton or FL Studio can be great for that.
There's things that I remember using Fruity Loops for in terms of like splicing up samples and then sort of like remixing them and stuff that you would just have to do manually in Reaper.
Yeah.
Like, so whereas this would allow you, like, I remember doing like a remix of a Taking Back Sunday song and taking all the elements out of one part of the track. So you almost had sort of like the bass, the vocals, all different elements of one part. And I was able to do some really cool kind of remix of that part of the track for the start. And it was almost all automated for me. I mean, my ability trying to do that in Reaper for me would have taken like literally 10 times as long, if not longer.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of thing that I would use something like Ableton or FL Studio for, because they are great for that.
Mm-hmm.
It very much depends on what genre you're working in, what you're aiming to achieve. If I was going to record, let's say I'd done an instrumental track in Ableton and I was then going to go and record a singer to sing over the top, I would then take something like a stereo render of the file from Ableton, drop that into Reaper, and then I would use Reaper to record all the vocals, because then the way the takes and the lane system work in Reaper are very intuitive, very fast. You can pick between takes. It doesn't care about your arrangement or anything, so it's not going to get in your way that way. And then you can choose all the bits you want, and then when you've decided that you've finished and you've got your part, you could then export that vocal and take that back into Ableton. And then...
Or wouldn't you be better just literally when you're at that... Alright, if you wanted to do more mixing and stuff.
Yeah, depending on if you want to be...
tweaking. Yeah,
if you want to be more advanced and start screwing with it like an electronic producer quite often would, then you would have that option. But if we're talking about the most efficient path and the quickest... That's how I would do that.
But then would you still think the best thing to do then, to export the stems back into Reaper, do your mix, and then master it finally from the bounce down from there?
That depends for me on if you are absolutely certain that you are never going to change the arrangement of that track in Ableton again. If you are, then maybe get it over to Reaper. But one of the good things about the way that Ableton works is because it's all kind of 4-beat loops, or however many beat loops that you set. If you decide to change the arrangement, you can just go, I don't want this little bit anymore, click, gone. And that kind of thing. And that's way faster than that would be in Reaper for that style of working. So that very much to me depends on the mindset. They're all good, they're all relevant, they do different things.
Dr. Nightgone, AxeFX or Line 6 Helix? Which do you think sounds most realistic for rock high gain guitars?
Oh, tricky. My guitarist in my band uses a Helix and it sounds great. There's a lot of personal preference goes on at that level. I'd be an AxeFX guy. I really like what Fractal do. I really like the way that they get their sounds to sound. And they are expensive, that's for sure. Oh, that's a new thing that just to throw another piece of news in there. AxeFX FM3. This has been announced. If I can find, I'll just change the screen again. Is there a picture of it? Yeah, the AxeFX FM3 got announced this week. This thing could be quite a game changer, because the actual AxeFX 3 now is over $3,000, which is not cheap. But the FM3, this thing is a little stomp box with 3 buttons, which is basically an AxeFX, and it's under $1,000. Yeah.
So what are you missing with this?
A lot of the connections on the back aren't there. I think the processor's something like half as powerful, because the big boy can do like 8 channels of audio at once. It can do some insane processing effects and routing. I think this one can do slightly less at once.
So what scenarios would you use that over this then? Because surely if you're a guitarist and you're playing live and you want to do amp modeling, this looks perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, it depends what you want out of it. If you're a guitarist and you want really insane sets of effects, I mean, 8 channels sounds like a lot, but that could be coming into the AxeFX, getting a stereo thing, send that out to another unit, then back to the AxeFX on another channel. Start to get really clever with it. Quite a few guitarists are doing that, where they've got real analog gear that they'll then patch in through the AxeFX and then send it through to the next channel and the next. So they've got this kind of hybrid digital to analog setup.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing any of that, if you're literally going, I'm getting all of my sound out of one box, this thing's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got that fractal audio level of quality. And so, I mean, it's even got a connector on the back for their proper foot switch system, because they do these big, like 10-button foot switches that have got all the text on that tells you what each button does. That kind of thing. Which I think's really funky as well, because if you change preset, it changes what they all say so that you know what button you're pressing in the dark. I think that's great. Yeah, so
those little LCD screens with the buttons.
Yeah, I think they're really funky, and the buttons, the color around them changes depending on what you want it to do. Yeah, so depending on what setup you've got for song to song, you can completely change what all the buttons do.
And just look down and look for the color as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Or like you can have it so that the color turns on and off with that effect or whatever. I don't know. Whatever works for you. I mean, there's guys like, I think John Petrucci from Dream Theater is very much the flag bearer for me with AxeFX. That everybody who watches the channel will probably know I'm a big Dream Theater fan, but that's not why I like AxeFX. I don't like them just because John Petrucci uses them. Before he was using these, he would be out on tour and he'd have a few amps with him, which he still does, but he would have a rack next to him which was taller than he was, full of effects units. And that would be 2 or 3 wide. So we're talking a cabinet with more effects than I have ever owned total that he would have to take around with him just to get a delay from this unit, a chorus from this unit, so on and so on and so on. And then he got an AxeFX, and the rest of it just went.
So someone's asked, so has this got the same sounds as the full box? Or is it missing something?
As far as I know, the sounds, yeah. So it is, yeah, it's exactly what Eduardo says. It's the same as the full unit, but with less power, like the Helix Stomp. So it's not missing any sounds as far as I know. It features the RS amp modelling, the latest technology developed by Fractal for the AxeFX 3. So the absolute latest stuff is in this box. Yeah. It includes the entire speaker impulse response collection from the AxeFX 3. That's impressive. Yeah, so it's pretty much the same thing. Powered by a 3-core DSP. So I'm guessing, yeah, it sounds like, from the sounds of it, they've done something that they couldn't do in the past, which was they've made their own custom processor for these. Because what they used to do was there's these Shark processors, if you've heard of Shark processors.
Nope.
It's a DSP chip, dedicated audio processors and other types of processor where you literally then you get Shark DSPs that they only do a thing. So the original AxeFX had a classic CPU, but it had loads of these Shark processors in that would do all the audio stuff. And so now they're big enough, Fractal, that they can go to chip companies and say, make me this. So their new processor is one chip, and it's got 2 Shark processors and an ARM processor all in the same chip. So where the AxeFX 1 might have been as powerful as this, if not less, spread over a chip, a motherboard that was huge, they've just put all of that in one chip now. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be less powerful. It just, they've now been able to make that in something the size of a postage stamp.
Yeah, well, mobile processing is that's probably one of the fastest growing sectors, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so the ARM will do stuff like the screen and what effects are on and that kind of thing, and saving presets, and the Shark parts do the sound. So rather than having processor cores that are not suited to the job, They've just made it very, very clever. Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah, that's it. Direct price $999.
Very cool. Very cool indeed.
Yeah, so there's currently a wait list for it. But then I'm guessing that means that they're then going back to the chip manufacturers and going, we've got this much interest, make this please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's even a four-channel USB audio interface, for God's sake. It does everything.
Yeah, you just get one of these and one of the crappy Lenovo laptops and you sorted.
To be completely honest with you, you might not be wrong. For guitarists who want world-class tone, if you said to me, I have £1,500 to spend on a computer and my gear, I might say that. I might say, spend $1,000 on this and 150, 200 or a little more on the computer. If that's what you do, if you are a guitarist who plays guitar and does nothing else, yeah, that's not a bad shout, actually. Yeah,
it's a cool little unit as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, even if you sing and stuff, you say you got a 4-channel USB interface with it, then you don't just have to be guitar. You can put your mic through it now.
This one doesn't have a microphone input.
Okay.
Where the full AxeFX FM3 does. It's one of the things they obviously stripped out because the people who this is for wouldn't be bothered. Oh, Mr. P says Denon use Shark processors in their AV units, like his home projector. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, Shark processors are for audio, video stuff. They don't do anything else. They need to be told what to do by another processor. But then they get on with it extremely efficiently and at an extremely high quality. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I used to have a couple of Behringer boxes with Shark DSP units in. Feedback destroyers. And they were relatively cheap and they did a great job. You literally just pressed a button and said, hey, that feedback, stop that please. It was like voodoo. It was great. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like they've thought of as much as possible with this, because even though this is only a little box, it's got connections on it for external pedals to have more connections and like wah pedal and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But they're not built into it, so you're not paying more for stuff you might not need. Mm-hmm. But if you want it, you can have it. Great.
I want to see you do a shootout with this and that old, was it Boss ME33 that I've got in the studio?
Oh God! What?
That would be hilarious to see.
To
see how amp modeling has improved in the last 20 years. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. God, I can't remember which one it is that you've got actually, because we've got a few. I think we've got an ME20, ME25. I know I've got a Boss GT3 downstairs, which is old as well.
It is. It's ME33.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we've also got a Boss ME25 or something that I think it was my dad gave me.
Yeah, the little square one with the 4 pedals and the blue bit in the corner.
The blue bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's what one, my. That's what I used to have it had as a kid. We haven't got the pickup for it, I don't think, have we? The old Roland VG8.
Oh no, we've got that.
You got a pickup for it?
Yeah, the GK2 pickup. Still got it.
Yeah. Got
the 7-pin DIN cable and got it all lying around. The ME33. I don't think that's the one.
Oh no, it's
that's
not.
Bigger.
No, it is bigger. You're right. It's similar though. It looks like it's just a bit smaller. It's still got the wah pedal on it. It's just got not as few knobs.
ME20 maybe. Come on. It's kind of in that era though.
Yeah.
Was it an ME22? I could literally just keep putting numbers into Boss's website and see what comes up. Was it like an ME? You could just.
Oh, there you go. 30.
Boss ME30.
That's what it was. Dirty as anything. Yeah. We don't want to remember that one, guys.
Yeah,
Let's pretend that didn't exist.
That's a no.
Just put it into Google and it'll come up.
Boss ME30.
Yeah. ugly, terrible thing.
It is that one as well. They've literally disavowed all knowledge. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Ah,
That was just, the only sound you could get out of it was, what was the band? Taproot. Do you remember Taproot?
yeah.
I could mimic the Taproot distortion sound with this pedal pretty much perfectly, which is not saying much.
No, that's not something to be proud of.
But that's all it could ever do. Well.
Oh man,
this is but like the amp model button that would it would tell you that you can model your amp really well with this thing. It's just basically just turn the gain up slightly, I think. Awful.
Oh man, So here's, I must have shown you this at the time, but this is a song by Proletariat that I produced that actually has this pedal on it.
This pedal. Oh dear.
I plugged it in, I turned off all the effects and then just turned on the chorus. And it was kind of like classic Nirvana. So, if that's coming through,
I need to pull up the tune again.
Okay, here we go. So this is the part that's really cool.
Yeah, it does still have that 90s vibe. Wow. Pedal got used.
Yeah, so when it hits in, I think that's a really awesome sound. When it's like bom bom bam bom bom bam bom bom bam. So yeah, it's that pedal, but admittedly, it's through a Zilla 412 with a proper 100-watt Marshall head, and but yeah, as a chorus unit for the day, it just did a sound we liked.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
So that's why I like to keep stuff like that around the studio, because it was what chorus pedals do we have? And I thought, let's just give this a crack and program that in, and happy times. I mean, in the room, it sounded like a snowstorm of white noise coming from it when we weren't playing, but we literally just had it on for that sound and then swiftly unplugged it again. Yeah.
Wow.
Apparently it does whammy effects, like a Digitech whammy.
Yeah. So
I might plug it back in for that. Just do
You could use it as a whammy pedal if you can manage to turn everything else off.
Yeah, well I'm sure I can. That's what I did for the chorus sound. I just dug into a preset and just went everything off.
Yeah.
That's the problem I find with pedals like this, is you plug them in and all the presets are just everything on full. So it doesn't sound great because it's trying too hard.
Yeah, I think channel 99 will be my Taproot preset, and that is literally probably everything to the right. And you just get this distortion that's exactly the Taproot sound. Good old new metal.
Absolutely. Right, so I think it's about time to draw this one to a close. If I remember rightly, we're not broadcasting next week.
I'm not here, but I don't know whether you and Chris can get together at all.
Oh, good shout, yes. If Chris can't find the time, I'll do a solo show, so I will be here for the hop pole position next week.
Well, we'll try. I mean, I'm going to be in Spain, but I will have internet and I will have Skype, so theoretically, I might still be able to join you from the poolside.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah. So, thank you everybody for watching, as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Support us on Patreon. Cheers. This has been Hot Pole Poodle. It's that time of night now. Words no worky. Thank you everybody. See you later.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.